Couple of things I want to touch on. Let's talk about basketball recruiting. Ron Hunter's bringing in an outstanding recruiting class, but I hear we've got a couple more scholarships left, and there's some big names we may go after. Can you comment on that?
Sure. We talked about this week, and certainly now is the time as you're kind of getting to the final stretches of the late signing period. It's an interesting dynamic that certainly we were talking about football recruiting just a second ago. It only has one signing period. It opens up the first Wednesday of February. When you have basketball, you have early, which starts in November, and the late, which opens up in April after the season. So it is an interesting dynamic. We did enter the late signing period with three scholarships and one commit there, LaRon Smith, six-day guy out of Palm Bay, Florida, at Heritage High School down there. The coaching staff I know is very high on him. Certainly Panther fans. He looks like a 17-year-old Eric Buckner clone. He has tremendous wingspan, tremendous leaping ability, and honestly, I think a little bit more offensive polish than what Eric did when he got here 2 years ago under Ron Barnes. I really like his upside and potential there. Has a little bit more weight already as a 17-year-old than Eric had. I like him a lot. There are two scholarships available. They've had a ton of visitors on campus, so we've talked about them. I know former Wake Forest transfer Melvin Tabb, who was the top 50 guy, was on campus 2 weeks ago, and he ended up signing with Kent State. There's a little bit of baggage with him. We talked about one of the reasons that he left the Wake Forest program is he got himself in trouble up there and with the law. And I always wonder too. If you're Coach Hunter, you don't necessarily want headaches on your roster.
Yeah.
And to amplify that, he's also bringing in Coach Hunter as his own son. So if you're a parent, would you want to bring your own son in and bring somebody in that may be a bad influence? I highly doubt that.
Right.
Another guy they were looking at was Marcus Kreider, guy out of prep school out of Ohio. He's bounced around, and I don't believe we're on the radar for him anymore. He's talking to Nebraska now to go play the Big Ten. And certainly, I don't blame him if he has a higher offer in that round. But I do believe we'll probably see some movement here in the next probably week and a half or so. Probably the next couple guys being on campus. Certainly, the name that's hot right now is Michael Bradley, the guy from UConn, who's interested in transferring out, looking to get closer to his grandmother in Chattanooga. We obviously are a great fit there. He's already taken business to Western Kentucky, and I want to see if he's had conversation with folks up at UConn to see if he's going to transfer here or potentially take a visit. This is the first step. He hasn't been down on our campus before, but he's 6'10", about 225 pounds. It would be a wonderful addition, I believe, to this team, and probably a cap on that as well. He's, as Coach Hunter, I would imagine, is probably reserved to keep that one last scholarship with only James Vincent on the only graduating senior this next coming season.
Okay. There was something that you had touched on a little bit about I wanted to speak about, and it's the dynamic between Coach Hunter and his son coming in. Have you had any conversations about how that's going to be? Obviously, he's excited to coach his son, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to take it easy on his son. How is that dynamic going to play out in practices and in game time? He's probably just going to look at him like another kid, I'm assuming.
It is. It's going to be very interesting, and something that he's mentioned too before in the past is overall not just RJ, but he wants to keep the pressure off the freshmen on our team, and I know that's going to be difficult because they're so talented, and it's a scenario where they're at need positions. But I think the dynamics and just seeing, certainly seeing RJ's and his team, Pike High School up in Indianapolis, run to the state title game. He was definitely a leader on that team. He's a tremendous shooter, a tremendous scorer. I know he played in the Indiana State All-Star game up there as well, and dropped 25 points and just did his thing up there. I heard very early that he was a right-handed Tayshaun Prince, and I'm not one for hyperbole, but I saw him, and I see exactly the comparisons to that way. He's a dynamic scorer, and you're right. I'm very interested to see how that relationship's going to be. I have to imagine that anytime you coach your son, you have to be a little harder on him, just because you want to set that example. But RJ's a tremendous worker, and really that's the interesting thing about this entire roster. These guys are energy guys. The guys are bringing in dynamic players, very good at their position, very efficient scorers, efficient shooters. Don't have to take a lot of shots to get points, and I definitely see our team being very much different this coming season because offensively they will be much more skilled than we were last season.
Let me ask you a possible starting lineup for next year. I know this is I think arguably the best recruiting class Georgia State has ever had. Who do you see starting coming next year for men's basketball? The starting five, assuming the team is what it is right now.
It's a great question, and one of the recruits that we don't even think about because basically he set out all last year was Manny Atkins, who played basically 2 seasons in the ACC with Virginia Tech. I definitely see him, being a starter on the team. Definitely with a returning point guard, Devontae White. He is the catalyst. He's the guy that is the engine that makes it go.
Yep.
I could see a guy like TJ Shites step in at power forward potentially, and start over. May be the only freshman in the starting lineup. I could see also as well RJ taking that shooting guard to small forward role, possibly coming off the bench. I like Rashad Richardson. He played well split the last stretch of last season and is a very good shooter, fits that role. I think he also understands too what Coach Hunter wants defensively. That's an important piece of this as well is how quickly these freshmen will be able to adapt to the defensive pressure that Coach Hunter does and really adapt to that. We don't run just one base defense. We run several. So it's constantly changing. These guys have to understand that. I know I've been in the past not a huge fan of James Vincent starting. From the words that I heard, based on the last week and a half or so, he's working out like a madman. So the folks in the gym have said that he's put overtime work soon as the season has ended to get his body and his game in shape. I could see him being a starter at the center position as well. So I know probably put seven people out there for 5 spots, but that's pretty much what we're going to see. This is going to be a much deeper lineup, and I truly believe it's a scenario where you may have a starting 5, but guys face they're going to be interchangeable.
So, based on what I'm hearing now with the team we have, talk about if we get the kid from UConn, and if we don't, expectations for next year. Is this an NCAA team, tourney team next year? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the CAA tourney eligibility next. But talk about the team as constructed, and if we get the kid from UConn, what are we expecting in terms of win, losses, and type of tournament type team?
I believe if you add Bradley to this team, I think it's an NCAA caliber team. He has the skill set, and certainly, like I said, we have the scoring punch to basically play with buddy in the conference. I still like VCU a lot in the conference. I still like Drexel a lot. I would put us in that 3-4 range, but I'm going to be very interested to see just because there's a lot of the media in the CAA will rank us very low again just because on paper we lost 6 seniors and 4 of those are starters in their minds. I believe we're better overall as a team, but you can definitely see have another 20 to 22, 23 win season just depending on the schedule. That's the other side too, that's the variable that we don't really know. The schedule, it was pretty much locked in, and I understand that at least the non-conference may be public as early as next week. But trying to figure out, do we play the same teams that we had on there? Do we buy out some of those contracts? Against the Florida International, who just fired Isaiah Thomas last week, and is probably going to be terrible again. While that's great to get a win, you'd probably rather have a team that would boost your RPI to put you more competitively. I think the staff certainly learned a lot of lessons from the Drexel, seeing how many games they had won, how quality they were of an opponent. They're a tremendous win streak, and yet they're still left out of the NCAA tournament. So I think we can learn. You can learn how to do that. You can learn, how to manipulate the schedule there to help your RPI, play bigger time schools. Whether it be going out west again and like we did last year and played at Washington, or playing folks that are a little bit closer to home, that you definitely could help the RPI. I know Louisiana Tech comes back here, and they should be a quality program. They won, I believe, 18 or 19 games and finished very high in the WAC last year as well. So it's going to be interesting. And while I believe this is a 20-plus win team again, it really just depends on the schedule and honestly who gets there. But we're definitely not going backwards. This team had the talent to win just as many games as they did in 2011-12.
I remember one of the things that was being talked about was us being eligible for the CAA tournament. I don't know if that got rectified. Can you comment a little bit on that and how that affects the team next year?
It's going to be very interesting to see this summer, and certainly our announcement to jump to the Sun Belt had a ripple effect on that because there was conversations that the CAA was going to increase their election fee from $250,000 to as much as $1 million. That vote got postponed with no rescheduled date in mind, which a lot of folks have kind of even Matt Litos up in Virginia, CAA Sports or CAAHoops.com had said, well, maybe they just did that to get Georgia State to do what they did. I disagree completely. I think basically it's more of a sign that VCU and George Mason are looking around, and it may be a scenario where they may be gone as well. The dynamics to the CAA schedule are going to be very interesting because it is expected that UNC Wilmington and Towson will finish below the APR levels, and they will be ineligible. So do you go to Richmond with 9 teams as us being ineligible, having those 3 teams out? Do you, if ECU announces in the next month or so that they're going and going to the A10 along with George Mason, do you have 7 teams? I mean, this is something that obviously the CAA is going to have to see. I don't believe that all schools are on board in basketball, and that's why you saw that vote get postponed. I think Tom Yeager, the commissioner of the CAA, has to really take a hard look at what his league looks like right now, and if making us ineligible in anything certainly sets a bad precedent for anybody else that wants to leave. I understand it has happened before when Richmond left the league for the A10 back in the early 90s. It does set a bad precedent, and I understand their idea. They don't want someone that's leaving the league potentially to win it. It just, to me, waters down the league overall. And as Coach Harris said, if you're going to make us ineligible for the conference tournament, don't give us any conference games either.
No, that makes sense. I think if you're make them a true independent, let them try and go out and schedule a schedule that can get in that large bid or something else. But we're not playing your conference games. You're not going to let us in the tournament. And lo and behold, this team may be capable of winning the tournament. I kind of find, and I'm sure it's been said on PantherTalk.com, it would be awesome if we were the #1 seed in the CAA and we're not eligible because we were leaving. And I think that would be kind of an interesting, look, we are the true de facto champions of the league, and it'll be interesting to see what would happen come tournament time if that occurred.